Okay, we have the green bars, we have live counters ticking up, so we should now be live, which of course means welcome back to the Storytime Network. It is a special Thursday edition of the Paradox Hour podcast because we are here to talk about Will Wight's Cradle once more.
Take me home, country roads. I'm not going to sing more of the song. You don't want me to.
I hate that you did that, but I can understand why for this podcast.
Son of a whore, that's what the title should have been.
Country roads, take me home?
Yeah.
Well, no, there's a pun. We should have workshopped. If we could have workshopped it a little. There's a pun. There's probably a pun we could have found at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
Whatever. So yeah, we're talking about books 9 and 10, so Bloodline and Reaper.
Don't fear the Reaper. It's a good book.
There you go. You got it in. You got it in.
Yep. I got it in, and I must do the obligatory, There we go. Okay.
But
we're good.
As you so succinctly put it, Jack, shit rather hits the fan in these two books.
Mm-hmm. Lots of shit hits lots of hands.
Now, let's be real here. That's kind of what Linden and Co. are to other people for most of the series.
Yes, I will also say that this is the part of the series where you're in your classic, second act turn, almost.
Yeah, like the second act, right after the midpoint switch, basically.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
the turn.
The tournament arc acts as the midpoint of the series.
Right, and so, that's why these books tend to be as, emotionally heavy as they are, while also being, almost, in a way, downer endings.
Very hardcore stuff.
Do y'all like the part where he said it's Osraling time and Oswald all over the place?
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say I prefer it's shedding time.
Mm-hmm.
Because then he started shedding. Because he misspoke.
We should probably talk about the actual contents of these books.
Rather than just making memes, yeah. Shit posting.
Must we, though?
I mean, have you listened to this podcast?
Look, I know we're all professional shit posters here. I even brought some popcorn to enjoy to munch on, and I've already almost finished it. But we do need to actually, live up to our alleged title of podcasters.
Again, have you listened to a podcast?
I have. I've listened to a few.
To be fair, most of the time that they
Tangents
get...
all the time.
Most of the time, podcasts get edited down to an hour, so I imagine they cut out the,
The
Awkward pauses, dog barking, things like that.
Yes.
The ADHD rabbit holes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of ADHD rabbit holes, I think Linden goes down a few over the course of these two books. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is really where the seeds get planted of. But what if I ate a god?
But what if I was God?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's again very much at the, I won't say behest, but via Serial. Because, he didn't think that leaving the Sacred Valley was possible until Serial showed him that it was, and that what life was like outside it. And here, it doesn't feel like he necessarily felt that
The consequences.
not even the consequences, but actually, things like actually taking out the Dread Gods and challenging the Monarchs was truly possible until Suriel showed him possible futures where he did that.
Well, if it isn't the actions of my consequences.
Well, look, before we get into that, like, I think Lyndon, we should probably set the stage a little bit with, what is it that Lyndon's doing in these books, right? Like, in Bloodlines, the thing that Lyndon has been kind of working at the entire time of the story is the Dread God coming to destroy Sacred Valley. The Dread God is now en route to destroy Sacred Valley. Unfortunately, several years, potentially decades too early.
Yeah.
Mainly because of a dickish hound. But we'll get to that later.
It sure is a good thing Lyndon has basically advanced quicker than probably anybody in Cradle history.
Yeah, Lyndon was only level grinding real fast.
But in many ways, like, Lyndon's timetable got pushed up so quickly. But now he's at, like, this is the book where essentially the quest he's been on since the beginning is now finally coming to an end. And then in Reaper, and I believe this is correct, we get the fallout from what happens in Bloodlines, but also the very key revelation of Ethan, his relationship to Rhaegon Shen, and also Rhaegon Shen's own particular goals.
I mean,
not to mention
as well as advancing
monarchs,
as well as advancing like the greater meta plot of the Abaddon War.
I mean, we mentioned 3-act structures before. I would say that Bloodline very much feels like the climax to Act 2.
Yes, like, I mean, so what? This is book
9.
Bloodline is 9. So, if you take books like 1 through 5 almost, I would argue, like,
more or less, yeah.
I would say maybe 4, because I think 4 is really where the world starts opening up.
Right, but I would argue that
I would say because of the closed structure of Ghostwater, you should include Ghost 5 in there as well.
Yeah, but I would say Ghostwater starts introducing you to, the key players for the coming books. It probably introduces you to the Akura clan more than, meeting Mercy does in book 4.
Yes.
It introduces you to,
Charity and Harmony.
It introduces you to Zeal.
Gives you a taste of
the dragons. The dragons are the big one that get introduced. They are the Act 2 villains, basically.
It also, well, yes, but I think that's in the same way that, like, the season finale of season 1 introduces, like, the main plot elements that are going to be present in season 2. I feel like Ghostwater is that. It's the season finale to Act 1.
I still feel like, Sky Swan does that, and it has that, big climactic, showy battle at the end of it as well. That, the protagonist can't take part in, but is inspired to, go forward from that.
Yep.
That point is less meaningful to me, because to me that is.
I mean, look, Sky Swan is not a great book compared to the rest of the series. It is one of the
weakest.
It is probably one of the weakest books in the series, if not the weakest. But
the only thing that comes close is Unsold, and that's just because of early installment blues.
But I still think that.
I mean,
from a
putting all
from a
we're getting off topic.
We are. From a story and character perspective, I think that's the end of Act 1. End of Act 2 is Bloodline, and then the last 3 books are almost their own sort of 3-act structured on their own.
I mean, you could also honestly argue that each individual saga is its own 3-act part, right? Like,
I mean, it's the series is roughly broken up into 4 3-book arcs.
Yeah.
right. So it's not terribly hard to be like, we're arguing over whether or not Ghostwater counts because we're talking about like book 4, which is the first book of a new 3-act structure, being the last book of a 3-act structure.
Yeah.
We're arguing over semantics here.
We very much are, yes, but
That's anime nerds.
Yeah.
That is anime nerds, which we all are, more or less.
But to say, like, in many ways, like, you get a lot of questions answered, and, like, you get the final setup, and, like, there's this moment of, like, in Bloodline and Reaper, you get the battle lines. You get you essentially get who's siding with whom in the final pages of this book, of the books.
Kind of. You definitely get it in Reaper, but it's still like.
But, like, we're talking about both. I mean, I say that because we're talking about both of these books. If we were just talking about Bloodlines, I wouldn't say that.
Even in Reaper, Malice doesn't really have her full-on heel turn until the very end.
No.
No?
No, but I will say in Reaper because of the labyrinth, we get a lot about Malice and like her whole everything. And so because of that, we are given like her final act turn, so to speak, doesn't feel left field because it was
pretty set up.
It was pretty well
No,
established.
it was already established. It was just a question of whether she was going to. She was always evil, right? Like, regardless of the fact that people were horny, she was always evil. It's just the fact of whether she was going to be the token evil teammate or going to be a full-on baddie.
Well, I'd argue that she ends up being I argue she ends up being.
I refuse to apologize for that.
No, don't. She almost. I would argue that she ends up being like not the anti-villain, because that's the role that North Strider ends up filling. But more just like she is the most traditional villain.
We're getting into.
I would say Shen is actually.
We're getting into 11 and 12 territory here. Let's try and.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me mention something about 9.
But I say
Lyndon,
sorry, go on.
Lyndon going back to his family and clan was simultaneously one of the most viscerally relatable and painful things in the entire series.
Yes, there's a reason I haven't reread this book.
Yeah, I'm never gonna reread Bloodlines, or if I do, I'm going to only reread like the part at the end.
Right, like
Like the entirety of Bloodlines is kind of a downer, and it even ends on a downer. It's a Pyrrhic victory at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, but that's kind of the beauty of an ending like that. That's part of why it's so much the Act 2 end. Because Act 2 ends almost always end with this kind of heavy downer. But also, I would argue that, like, with Lyndon's coming home, kind of like him returning as the person who has seen the world and seen what is there and has kind of this greater perspective. It's meant to be like it's meant to be bitter because you realize Lyndon does so care about these people, even though he is very clearly around them. But that's also something that a lot of people go through, not just Fuzzy, you and I, like people of color, but like for a lot of people, like if you are from mid-America, like Americana, small town, you're very likely going to leave home and then come back feeling like the world is a lot smaller.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Not
also
to mention the estrangement that comes with it too.
Right, you almost can be a wanderer with no home.
yeah, it's also like sort of an examination of the toxicity inherent in a lot of like
Insular
cultural and
communities.
family dynamics.
Right, and I mean, like, I've always said that Lyndon's story is one of breaking societal chains, of, examining a lot of these, like, top-down structures where, it's always been done this way, we should keep doing it this way. Because that's what this...
Is Will Wight the most based Florida man?
It's possible, but, like...
That depends on if Chuck Tingle is a Florida man or not.
But... I know,
Again,
I know you're joking, but, like, Florida is fascinating as a state, right? Like, not to get very political, but, like, Florida is this weird place where, like, you have both wide diversity, but also small town closed location, right?
It is a bit of a microcosm of like a lot of. It's almost a caricature in many ways of wider American societal issues.
I mean, that's why it was a swing state in American politics for so long.
Unfortunately, it is no longer that.
Yes, but like, there's a reason why it was that for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because of Disney World, sadly. But to say that Lyndon, like I always found Lyndon's coming home as this like cathartic moment of like, and Fuzzy, you can chime in. I think
absolutely, yeah.
I think you would agree with this. It's like a it's almost like a character, like the child of abusers coming home after having gone to therapy and like going, oh no.
It also, I do find it very interesting how the book reframes the whole never surrender, last stand against Markuth as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, the idea is not that these people have this sort of idealistic integrity, right? The idea is that these people
are fundamentally cowards.
And extremely stubborn.
They're fundamentally cowards, but also they are fundamentally marked by a refusal to believe they can possibly be wrong.
Yeah, they're extremely stubborn to a delusional degree.
Well,
yes.
I mean, this is why, like, this is why, like, them being a closed society makes them so fascinating. Right? Like, they are a closed society. little to no contact with the outside world. Like, I joked a little bit, but like, you know, what is Sacred Valley if not podunk farming town in the middle of Kansas?
Oh my god, is Sacred Valley the Amish?
Kinda.
They're either the I was gonna say Mormons, but Mormons are too, like,
Powerful.
powerful and commercialized at this point to really be the same sort of
And
deal.
also, the Mormons generally have a reputation for politeness that a lot of other similar religious groups don't have.
I feel like
It's not necessarily, accurate. I'm just saying they have a reputation for it.
I don't know, as far like, for the most part, when, at least in the circles I run in, when people say Mormon, polite is not even in the top 10 of first things that come to mind.
Regardless, and we should probably, not focus too much on that aspect.
But like, more to say that, like, like, Will Wight is a white man writing this series, and so, like, for him to kind of pull, like, it very much reads like a Lyndon is from the smallest small town in the world, right? And now he's coming home after essentially going to college and speed running a PhD.
He really did speedrun that PhD, huh?
Yeah, he did.
My man's was taking like 10 courses a semester and being like, this is fine. I should probably be taking a few more. You know what? I'll take like 5 or 6 in the summer too.
Yeah, no, he was like, he like entered college as a 24-year-old and left and got his PhD a year later.
Yeah, that's so, yeah.
Also, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that my man's was 15 when he started his journey?
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
He's a 15-year-old boy. That is still an age where
As a
the
child.
word boy is appropriate. You are a little baby at that age still.
Exactly. A
Yeah,
child.
he's a baby.
Babby.
To be fair,
regardless,
if you listen to Tolkien, 35-year-olds are still children.
Look, elves don't hit their growth spurt until they turn like 50.
Hobbits.
But well, yes, hobbits are weird because they're like, in many ways, they represent a sort of childlike innocence that Tolkien apparently thinks people in Middle England have.
What's very funny is that Frodo was 50 when he left the Shire.
I'm not going to think about that much longer. I'm just going to move on.
Look,
Anyway.
in fairness on that point, there was some ring-based unaging shenanigans going on with Frodo, so that's...
That was more that was also Bilbo.
Yes, but Frodo was a 50-year-old who still had the body of a 20-year-old twink.
Yes. I
You know
mean,
what I'm saying?
when you realize that, it becomes more reasonable that Sam had the biggest man crush.
Anyways, we're getting off topic again.
Yeah.
Yes.
This one's my fault. But yes.
I think I had a point I was going to make. The way Will has succeeded in telling this type of story with Lyndon, especially in Bloodlines, it is an example of two things. One, cultural convergent evolution.
AKA some experiences actually are kind of universal.
Right.
Yes.
But also, I would argue, like, there's a phrase for that. It's, oh God, what was it?
Is it cultural relativism?
No, it was, specificity. It's relativism by cultural specificity.
I see.
The more specific your subject or your setting is, the more inversely relatable it becomes.
But it also is an example of you don't necessarily need to be part of a culture to tell a meaningful story about that culture, because from what we can tell, Wight has a pretty solid family life, an extended family.
Yes.
Though again, we can't make any assumptions based on that, but it's just I think it's more the sort of the fact that it resonates so much. Lyndon's story is one that resonates so much with people of color, especially people in South Asia, that I think it's just I think it could be if you show this story to a person without telling them who the author is, they may be quite surprised.
It's a guy from Florida.
Yes, white man it's a Florida man.
I mean, to be fair,
a Florida man who's very good at writing.
To be fair, I was surprised Will Wight was from Florida when I heard that. When I first learned that fact, yeah.
It's almost like he's just a really good writer, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, huh?
So just as a bit of a tangent, I am very excited about the screening that I will be attending in good old...
I believe I also got my ticket for that. Or at least I'm going to be getting that.
Oh, cool. We can meet up.
I'm poor and British.
Maybe. Sorry.
I'm poor and Canadian, but I also have the option of going into credit card debt.
Don't you make that a habit.
No, look, generally my credit card is paid off in full at the end of each month.
Oh, as is mine.
I just could not resist the siren song of private screening. Well, private in the sense that it's us and close to 200 people.
Yep. Anyways, back to the substance of this book. Lots of...
Sorry, go on, Jack.
So the main substance of the book is Lyndon and co. going to the Sacred Valley and, to evacuate it, and also to investigate something.
This is also the first official adventure with Zeal as part of the gang.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
He does kind of get adopted wholesale, doesn't he?
Yep.
Let's be
Lyndon's
honest.
Go ahead.
I was just about to say, let's be honest. Lyndon is the extrovert who adopted introvert Zeal.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Ethan's really the one who facilitated that the most. But yeah, why do I get the feeling that Lyndon has been thinking about Zeal since Ghostwater and been like,
I want him.
Yes, I want that. Especially because this was one of the corrections, but he did go save Yaren and Mercy's butts.
Yes, that was in the original book. That was in the original version of that book prior to the correction.
Wasn't it the other way around?
Nope, it was already there.
Huh.
Anyways, so the
Lyndon's
thing
also
that they
the Void. Sorry, just as another story note, Lyndon is the Void Sage at this point, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He's not fully coming to his own because,
he has no idea what he's doing as the Void Sage, but
he said the words and unlocked the icon.
Yes.
that's the bullshit power.
Yeah, he did. He literally has the power of because I
No.
said so.
Yeah. No, you.
Can I just say, this book was also it was anti-catharsis for a lot of people, because I don't know if y'all. I know Mill and Jack don't. I don't know if Gen partook of the Reddit in the time leading up to this book. It was just full of people having the fantasy of they were projecting onto Lyndon the fantasy of showing up after being gone as a total badass and wowing
No,
everyone.
I think I was reading the Reddit. I wasn't actually participating in, in commenting, because who wants to actually comment
Obviously,
on Reddit?
yes.
But I think I was reading the Reddit at the time. Because that rings
Yeah,
a
so
bell.
you remember
I
there's
do
like,
remember that. Yeah,
there-
people were
there were like
very
9
people
a day.
Yeah, people were very positive about what was going to happen, and it did not go well for them.
Where it's the whole fantasy, it's the whole 9-hour argument, perfect argument you have in the shower versus when you actually have the conversation.
Yep.
But also, can I just say, this book had it was just a short gag of a paragraph, but it was, we need to add this to the soundbite, the Raymond Holt vindication moment for me. In which Lyndon said, came to the realization, if a lot of other people were given the exact same opportunities as me, they probably wouldn't be able to make it to this point, huh?
Yeah.
And I just love the fact...
It's not even the realization, it's just like, why can't they? And everyone just starts laughing at him.
I just love the fact that Ethan just laughed for 5 minutes straight.
Didn't they record it on video?
Yeah.
I think they did.
Oh, absolutely. Mostly because I believe, first of all, Dross is always recording.
No, I'm fairly sure. Fairly sure Ethan made sure to get it on a memory tablet.
Immediately afterwards, he was he found the nearest memory tablet and committed it as fresh and pristine as possible.
As the Emperor did after kicking Ethan.
That was funny.
I mean, you know what? I do feel like I wanted to see more of the reactions at the end of Reaper, even if it I would love to read a short story that is literally just every character we've met until this point reacting to the ending of Reaper.
Hey, there's nothing saying that we won't get...
That's the beauty of a thing like of the animated series, where you can just show that on screen.
Okay, can I just say, y'all remember the moment where Ethan was knocked out Cassius and Fisher Gesha just kind of watched?
Cassius.
Yeah.
Cassius, it's Ethan.
It's Cassius.
Hey, they're all made up words anyway.
Cassius
so is Zolo, Fuzzy.
Bill, I'm tempted to smack you for that.
You're this is... I don't know why this is the hill you choose to die on, Mel.
Funny hill. I'm proud of him for it.
It doesn't even hurt me anymore. Which is the funny thing. At this point, the only person you're hurting is yourself.
That's what you keep telling yourself.
But look.
I mean, I don't fucking care. I'll call him whatever.
Can we please focus?
No, I was just gonna say, the animated series has the opportunity to do the funniest thing of all time in that sequence, where they make it look very homoerotic, and Fisher Gesha's just peeking through her hands covering her eyes.
They do have the opportunity to do that, don't they?
All I'm saying is, Cradle's missing a good chunk of Hoye that I think it could use.
Look, all I'm saying is the Raygon Shen Tiberian stuff should and very much needs to have some level of like
Oh no, Reagan Shen absolutely wanted to.
Can we please focus?
Yeah, can we get back onto the topic of the books, please? And
I mean, Reagan Shen is quite relevant in that we kind of
we're not even
Reaper.
we're not even talking about Reaper yet.
We're on Bloodline still, and we have
that's true.
half an hour barely talking about it.
That's true. But I guess getting back to like the point of Bloodlines and like the point we've all been dancing around, it's like Lyndon goes home and is rejected. Like it's such a forceful rejection of him, what he's here to do, what he set out to do from the beginning. It's this kind of the reason why you and I call it so anti-cathartic, Fuzzy, is because like when we look at that, we go, yeah, that's how this would go. Of course, this is what would happen.
Yeah, and I think it's a very realistic look at the fact that these tightly knit communities look so much different from the inside than they do from the outside. And this is Lyndon's first experience of becoming that outsider.
Right. I mean, that's...
Because, like, even when he was an outsider,
he was still on the inside.
He was still on the inside, yeah. He's like, everyone was like, yes, this is an outsider, point and laugh, but also this is our outsider, only we're allowed to point and laugh.
Right, and
right?
like, yeah, and like, also, you know, going into it is like, you don't see, like, the reason why I asked if Lyndon was the Void Sage at this point was because, like, one of the things that he comes to terms with at the end, like when he becomes the Void Sage, is this idea that he starts as I am nothing, and like the place that he learned that is in Sacred Valley, like.
Yeah, because he was taught his whole life that he was lesser.
Right, and so like, this is that, like, to come home to the place where you were nothing, finally having made something of yourself. No one,
and
like,
being rejected because you made something of yourself in the way that is not acceptable to them.
Exactly. Like, you were like, there's so much to unpack there that, like, yes, it's very brutal. But it's also honest in a way that a lot of stories don't tend to get right.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, I am someone who always advocates for not going too far into realism in stories a lot of the time.
Because ultimately should be aspirational.
Stories should ultimately be about making people feel things, and usually the things you want to make them feel are good. Usually.
But
not always.
I think Bloodlines tackled it in a uniquely... It was real in a way that is not seen as often, and is a bit more, I think, healthy and necessary in a story.
Well, I think part of why that works the way it does is because, one, we get Zeal's interaction, but two, we also get it's like a very honest take of this, while never saying that Lyndon was wrong.
No,
Like,
it is.
it
It does a
never-
very good job of like making it very clear who the bad guy is. Because
Right, and-
a lot of people are like, "Oh, there's like moral ambiguity." No. In situations like this, there is a very clear-cut bad guy. It's
Right,
the abuser.
and, like-
The abusers are the bad guys.
And like, I will say, like, we get more of Jiren later on, Lyndon's father, who is a very personal abuser to Lyndon. But Jiren does believe that like the things that he says and does are to Lyndon's benefit, even though they're not.
Yeah, he's
But-
it's
So
a
like,
I think one thing this also does nail really well. Sorry for interjecting, but
no, you're fine.
people's feelings towards those who have abused them, especially family who's abused them, they're not universally contempt or hatred. Like, there's a very gnarled mixed knot of feelings there.
So again, this is something that me and Gen can speak to. The worst part of having parents like this is knowing that they love you.
Mhm.
Right. It almost makes it easier to it sucks, but there's a level of you that almost always goes, this would be so much easier if they hated me.
Right? I am very thankful that my parents, after like a decade of struggle, did go to therapy with me, and we did family therapy, and it like turned out for the best. But it took 10 years of struggling with mental illness and several near suicide sort of scenarios to get there.
And like, that is the world, like, that is the family structure, that is the old like war lines that Lyndon's walking back into as he returns to Sacred Valley.
Because
And, like-
yeah, that's
Sorry.
let me go ahead.
No.
It's Jiren in particular is a viscerally like the things he does and says are things that my own father does and says.
Right. Jiren is so much that like tiger dad.
It's
Or,
like
strict Asian dad stereotype.
you made this point and I was gonna expound on it, but he genuinely thinks he's doing what's good for Lyndon, and that's what makes it more painful. That's why even you can see this is more subtext, and we all know how audiences are at that, but
Fucking terrible, yes.
yes, a lot of you can see Lyndon struggling because he knows where Jiren is coming from with everything he's saying. He knows that Jiren is doing it out of a place of love, but also that he's just an ignorant backwater hick.
That almost makes it worse in a way, honestly.
Yes, no, I like it. Yeah, like we said, it would be so much easier if they just hated him or us, or insert your own pronouns here.
Right, and I think that's why like Fuzzy and I have said this, I think, on previous streams, but like Cradle as a series is like the most. It's like, what if a white dude wrote the world's best Asian fan fiction about an Asian person? And it's like, Jesus Christ, Will, that's unfair.
Yeah, it really do be like that sometimes. Because I will admit to being incredibly envious of Will Wight at all times. Not because of his success. I don't envy him his success. He deserves his success. I'm just envious of how much better a writer he is than I am.
Takes a lot of skill to thread that needle.
Yeah, but like I think there's a reason I say that. Like, I don't. That's a high praise mark from me, because I'm tend to be very sensitive about these kinds of stories.
There are probably Asian authors who don't do it as well as he's done it.
Well, they don't do it as well because they're coming at it from a very different location of it.
Often from an insider's perspective, that
Right.
kind of clouds their judgment on the matter.
We should talk about this if anyone else has ever read this book, but like Jiran J. Zhao's Iron Widow series is
I
very
still have to read
much like a what if, like, it's the story of an abused victim, like essentially becoming the villain of their own story, but it's written from the perspective of an insider. It's written like as an insider's perspective from the insider, and I think that is a very fascinating read when put into context with Cradle, which is an outsider writing an outsider's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of those things where the Reddit bros are just like, I would simply do better. But I think people just don't understand how easy it is to perpetuate the cycle.
Yeah.
How easy it is to just let the abuse and the bitterness that you suffered sort of corrode you until you are no better than the people that made you.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, even like going personal a second, like there are days where, like, you know, I still revert back to that. Like I still get very bitter, very angry, and it takes my entire support network to go, hey, again, stop that.
It's really fucking raw stuff.
Yeah, no, and like that's why there's so much to talk about in this book, because it hits such a nerve.
Mm-hmm.
And like even getting rid of the racial line, like just going to as a like small town white America, kind of like small town big kid, like kid leaves to go to
Small
big
town
city.
anywhere, really. Like, this
Yeah.
is something that is kind of in small towns across the world, whether
Right.
it's in Asia, Europe, America, is like, when a person leaves their small bubble and then they come back different. They come back changed.
Right. And like
And a lot of insular places hate change.
right,
It's like-
because yeah,
Go ahead, Dan.
I mean, we see that, like, again, getting kind of political, but like that is partially what the 2016 populist backlash has been, and like why there's been such a railing against
Quote unquote wokeness.
wokeness, but like really the thing that they're kind of railing against is education, it's expertise.
It's this feeling of being basically outmoded by progress.
And not even like, and also like beaten by
Being
someone who
left
doesn't know
rather.
you.
Yeah.
Like, how could they know better? They don't know you.
It's crabs in the bucket. Right? It's textbook. The crab bucket has never been as relevant before as it is now.
Mm.
Right, and or like even boiling the frog.
Like,
Yep.
I'm terrified because Canada's next prime minister is probably going to be the populist conservative leader.
Ugh.
Because he's got like polls are showing him like winning by a landslide over the other leaders, to the point where it might be a conservative majority for the first time in decades. Because
and, like,
usually Canada forms minority governments the majority of the time. This is the first time we may genuinely get a conservative majority, and that's terrifying.
right. And like, you know, what is it that these people, like these types of people, always prey on? It's this idea that, you know, wasn't it better in the old days? Wasn't it better when things were the way they were?
Mm-hmm.
And so like you see it with Elder Whisper even even the elders who were to Lyndon and team, to Lyndon specifically, I guess, who were good to Lyndon and to Lyndon before he hit Sacred Valley the first time. But their betrayals are the ones that sting the hardest.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially I think
Realizing that Elder Whisper, the guy from the lower treasure house in the dojo,
Elder Ram, I believe.
yes,
yeah, that guy, and like the first elder of the White Fox,
especially because he saw a few. He was told of several futures, or literally saw several futures where it was the first elder who allowed him to sort of become something if he didn't leave Sacred Valley.
Right. Like you walk into this story not necessarily like going, okay, maybe Lynn is not going to be able to convince everyone, but like there were people there on his side when he left. His family, obviously, Elder Ram, like Whisper, the first elder, all of them were on his side, and then we get there and it's no, they're not, because when faced with the existential threat of the dread god wandering titan, functionally,
which you can just see as a sort of allegory for
Climate change.
Not change, but rather the
climate disaster.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but also the horrors of the outside. Like it's the whole. Well, it's not our problem in our little small haven, right?
Right.
Until
we keep our heads down and it'll just blow right past us.
Oh yeah, global warming is not a problem. By the way, the sea level's rising. No big deal.
Right.
Yeah, it's like there are people living in a small coastal town who don't care about climate change until they're underwater.
I mean, for quite some time, they thought it was a plot by the Kazan.
Which
even I think when Lyndon was like, no, it's this big existential threat, you should take it seriously, they're like, nah, it's probably the Kazani. This unsold doesn't know what he's talking about.
It's also the whole idea that, like, there can't possibly be something outside of our worldview that can threaten us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, they assume that their knowledge and expertise is more than enough to deal with the problems at hand.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, like, I don't know what your experiences are, like, the three of you, with the kind of people like this, but when...
I have more than a few family members who are very, staunchly conservative, let's say.
I have an uncle who is a medical doctor who also got a later specialization in autism, who refuses to accept that his son is autistic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I told you all about the encounter I had with my stepdad and his friends over that over trans stuff. So,
Right, but like even in this situation where like it's someone who loves you and cares about you and has no reason to cause you harm, and the minute you challenge their worldview, they go, nope, we're standing with the other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first Knives Out movie.
I haven't watched that, actually.
You really should. You really should.
I watched Glass Onion. I haven't watched that one for some reason. I missed it when it came around.
You should watch it.
They've started filming the third movie, and I could not be more excited.
Oh, I am so hyped. But yes.
But to say Fuzzy, maybe you should deafen for a second. I don't want to spoil this.
Oh, hang on 1 second.
I can't deafen. Fuck it. I'll get spoiled. I probably won't remember it.
I'm surprised you haven't watched it yet, Mel.
I don't have the time or the attention span for movies much nowadays.
Right.
Unfortunate.
But to the point, like one of the main plot climaxes of the movie is when Marta is revealed to be the inheritor of the dead writer's will and estate, right? Like, all of a sudden...
A good chunk of the movie beforehand talking about how she's basically family, and, oh, I remember when she came from different Latin American country, insert that here, because they all got it wrong, or, like, none of them got... They're not consistent because they don't know.
Right, so, like, you have, like, all of these people, like, who are on varying side, like, we're all at various levels on, quote-unquote, on your side. And then, the minute you challenge their status quo and cause any kind of external shakeup to their power structure, their systems, in a way that causes you to be at the top, like, causes you to change how you are in that structure, then they turn.
Yeah, because their status is challenged by this.
Right, and so, like, that's why, you know, like, in the book, I mean, in the movie, like, that's why Chris Evans' character, Revel?
Fuck, I don't remember.
Chris Evans, Captain America. Ransom. America's ass.
Yes. An ass in more ways than one in that one.
America's asshole, is able to worm his way into Marta's inner circle in that moment. Because
he plays the part of being the understanding one.
Right.
Are we done with the spoilers now? So
yes, we can bring Fuzzy back in.
Okay.
Yeah, we can bring Fuzzy back.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was about to say, like, let's bring Fuzzy back.
Yeah, okay. I have returned.
But more to the point, like, to the point that I was saying is, like, Knives Out really says, like, it is, what if you took a power structure, turned it on its head, and had everyone turned against you? That is what Lyndon faces here.
Also had Daniel Craig play a gay Southern gentleman.
Honestly, I would have loved to see Foghorn Leghorn James Bond in Cradle.
Oh my god, you're right. That's exactly what he is.
Extremely out of place. But yes,
I mean, what's funny to imagine is fucking Daniel Craig enjoying getting to play that character more than James Bond.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's great.
Look, James Bond is what Daniel Craig does for work. I keep forgetting. Benoit Blanc is what he does. Yes, Benoit Blanc is what he does to relax.
Yeah.
I mean, this is his little weird guy phase, like the one that Daniel Radcliffe had. And
you see phase that's ended.
We should keep going, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, should we, spend a few minutes talking about more positive aspects of the book, I guess?
The action sequence remained incredible.
Then Lyndon's, whole, basically, because, I mean, that's the thing, all he's been doing is working up to this moment, and he's been talking about how he's going to go home, how he's going to save his family, save his clan, and when he gets there, he realizes it's not home anymore.
It also is like, Lyndon is a better person than me in every conceivable way, but especially because he saw his reception and didn't immediately go like, okay, suit yourselves.
Right.
Honestly, in his position, I would have just turned around and walked away.
Just washed your hands. To be fair, like the stuff with Zeal and Mercy, for example, shows that not everyone in Sacred Valley is a complete asshole.
I'm not sure the Mercy stuff does, but the Zeal stuff does.
Mercy. The Zeal stuff
Well,
definitely
no.
does.
So here's the thing. The Zeal stuff is, I think, it needs to be reframed in a similar way to the Markuth stuff. If it had been one of the other ones,
They wouldn't have
if it
dropped
had,
them.
then Zeal's story would also have been just as difficult.
Right, it's because Zeal was able to connect with them on a person-to-person basis, and not.
No. I meant on the more like mechanical scale. If it had not been the Wandering Titan, the Kazan would probably have been like in the same way as the others is probably one of the other clans.
Yeah, I
But
guess.
they're Earth artists. They knew, first of all, okay, this isn't us, and also, oh my god, what is that? Because remember, the sacred arts are very backwards to the point where a single clan practices one path, but also has very little working knowledge of, like, real knowledge of other paths except how to fight them. And even then only, like, so it's like, first of all, yes, Zeal is just adorable, and I love him, and if anything happens to him, I will kill everyone in this room and then myself.
You finish this series, you know what happens.
Yes, but like anyway, but yes, Zeal is uniquely suited to sort of, he just gives off that vibe, you know?
He's the calm, collected one who's not going to snap like Yaren or even
But
Lyndon
he's,
might.
you know, he's also had that experience of taking charge of a bunch of people weaker than him. Because he was, you know, the Archlord of the Dawnwing sect. So he knows, you know, he's got that authority about him that, you know, that Mercy Mercy refused to take until the very end, and what
Ethan just struggles with. Period.
Because
Ethan is just. Ethan is literally, he's doing everything in his power to not be that guy.
Well, I also think, yes and no. I think this is, we can talk about this when we get to. We can talk about this when we get to Reaper.
Yeah,
but
we'll talk about it. No, I was like, and I think what helps is it's not apathy, but Zeal's actions can easily be perceived as apathy, and that tends to be better for convincing people. When people are sure you don't have an agenda because you are kind of just like, you don't care, they're more likely to trust you on serious things because you clearly don't, because I feel like a lot of people meeting Zeal would be like, he clearly doesn't care enough to lie about this, even though he does care, but from an outsider looking in, it looks like he just doesn't care enough to bother lying. Which, you know, the trauma dissociation will do that to you. PTSD in general will do that to you. But, yeah, so it was kind of like, the Kazan clan was kind of like a confluence of factors that made things go much better than they did with everyone else. It was a mixture of Zeal and them being Earth artists, and also the babies climbing his horns, which I cannot get that image out of my head. And there's not nearly.
It was great.
There's not nearly enough fan art of just Zeal being climbed by babies.
And let's not forget the, you know, the positives of, if nothing else, Orthos meeting back up with the gang.
Right.
Yes.
And I just want to make it clear that, like, I don't think Bloodlines is a bad book.
No,
I don't think it's
not.
poorly
It's
written.
absolutely
It's
not.
about like, the early stuff in Bloodline, like the stuff
It's
before.
one of the
Sacred Valley.
better books in the series in terms of quality. That's why it's so difficult to read.
Right. It's like, it's so good because there's a lot of meat on the bones.
I mean, it's similar to how I feel about the Stormlight Archives. I think the Stormlight Archives are really good books, but I have to be in a certain mood if I want to read them, because otherwise they're going to depress me immensely.
Especially
I
the
made a
Linden stuff in book 1.
Yeah.
And I made a joke about the Stormlight Archives in our
Book 1,
Discord,
God damn it.
right? Like, you know.
Which one?
Oh god.
Yeah, you do kind of do that a lot.
Hold on. Let me just grab it.
Because like, books 1 and 4 of Stormlight Archive
They're
are
rough.
the most incredibly like they are solid depression. Book 1 has like a single spark of hope. Book 4 is just depression throughout.
Right.
Oh, good.
And
I'm glad I
also,
haven't read that one yet. Then.
Right.
No,
my joke.
go ahead again.
My joke was also: is my deteriorating mental stability due to anxiety and depression a reason to reread Stormlight, or avoid rereading Stormlight? Let's find out
Yes.
together.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
is the answer to that question.
But like that's
I do
the
think
beauty of those books.
I do think we spent a lot of time talking about the beginning and, or rather, the middle of the Bloodline. We haven't really touched much on the beginning or the end of it.
But
I
also,
mean,
maybe that's just me and Fuzzy, but I do think that one of the things about Bloodline it's the emotional climax of the book is very different than the actual literary climax.
No, you're
And I
correct
think
there.
that's not necessarily a hard circle to square, but it's more if you're reading this book and are here for the big boom, the big action sequences and set pieces, that's a different part of the book you're looking at. Whereas I think for me and Fuzzy specifically, the emotional climax is where that book crescendos.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
in a way.
and
Again, I do feel like the other stuff merits talking about, though.
No, 100%. But I just want to make it absolutely clear that
it
walking
doesn't
into
help.
this book,
It doesn't help that
I
the
did
big
enjoy it.
No. We're talking so much about it because of how good we think it is. But also, it doesn't help that the big climactic set piece moment, the physical climax, as it were, does end on a bit of a downer.
That's true.
Ross burning himself out to, save the day.
Is this the book where Linden overlords?
Yes.
I will say that description.
Wait, no, he overlords in
No, yeah, he doesn't.
No, it's the next book.
No, it's this one. It's this one. He overlords, then teleports back.
Yes, he does. He does.
Oh,
doesn't
right.
He
No,
does
he
it in-
archlords in the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yes, he
overlords
overlords in the
in.
next one.
Look, he
He overlords
advances
in
a
this
lot.
one.
He advances a lot. It's hard to keep them straight.
His whole thing is that he advances. That's kind of the point of his archlord revelation.
It's almost like that's the tagline of the series.
No, I thought his.
No, it's his overlord revelation. That's
yeah,
right.
he advances.
Yeah, his overlord which again, in the context of the overlord revelation of it's like
I mean, it's kind of funny as a little bit of a fuck you to the people who've been like, maybe you should do something other than advancing, and Lyndon's just like, no, I'm going to make it the very summation of my present being.
That's literally my whole character, guys. That is, and not only is it my character, I am now making it canon to the universe. Even accepts that is my character.
Orthos told me that a dragon
when Lyndon is unserious, he is extremely unserious.
When Orthos told him Orthos told me that the dragon advances, and I took that personally.
Even Orthos is like, no. When I said the dragon advances, I didn't mean that much.
But I will say,
funnily enough, that is literally his parting speech in Underlord can essentially be summed up as, look, when I told you the dragon advances, I didn't mean that fast.
Right.
I'm a turtle, my dude. I'm a dragon, but I'm also a turtle.
Yeah. But the book also has a lot of other great moments, like Mercy just getting absolutely fed the fuck up with the Lee Clan's bullshit.
Oh, I mean, cathartic as hell.
Yeah.
Who amongst us hasn't wanted to tell off that family member?
I can't point to anyone because I can't find them.
They're dead. They're dead and gone. But also, like, the set piece of Linden returning to Sacred Valley to essentially single-handedly hold the line against the Wandering Titan
Yeah.
as the Void Sage is incredible. Because we don't get it from Linden's POV. We get it from Jai Long. And it's like watching...
Long got so badly outpaced by Linden's advancement.
Yes. But I will say, it's like, the way Jai Long described it, and I could be misremembering,
I believe I've actually got it.
so like, let me say this, and then you can tell me if I'm right or not. But the way Jai Long describes it, it's like almost like comparing Linden to an avalanche. And like,
A lot
You
of
go-
people do compare Linden to a force of nature, because he kind of is.
right, but like in that specific moment, you have Linden almost like flying down the mountainside with all of his guns coming out of space holes, firing and like creating this rainbow bullet effect down the mountainside, engulfing everything in its path. Like,
Yeah, you said holes.
yeah, and like not even just that, but like against a force that like Jai Long, like immediately prior, was like really failing to do anything against.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you get this moment of like, oh, this is the Sage of Twin Stars.
Mm-hmm.
This is Linden. And I think
It
that
also-
is like that's the beauty, that's the power of that moment.
Jai Long is a fascinating character.
I
Steve.
love Jai Long. I love him.
Mm.
I'm still furious. But-
I'm not.
When we get to book 11.
The comparison that Jai Long made was blazing like a many-colored phoenix.
Also, excellent. Oh, good wordage. Love good words.
Very intentional wording as well, given who his
Right.
role models. Well, okay. Suriel is his aunt, is the cool aunt, and
Suriel
Ethan
is his
the-
why not?
No, Ethan is his wine aunt.
That's true. Yeah, no, you're right.
Ethan is his wine aunt, who is also like a cool mentor. Suriel is the cool but more responsible, grown-up, level-headed aunt.
She's like the one who became like a professional defense attorney or something, and is like, whereas Ethan's the layabout. Why not? Yeah.
I mean, one thing that we haven't talked about at all yet is the Abaddon stuff that happened in this book, because it was pretty fucking big.
Oh yeah.
Right,
no, it's no big deal. The Mad King just decides to go after Cradle.
And, you know, I'm fairly
So-
sure takes out Markiel. Even
so,
temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
For the viewers at home, imagine for a moment that insert Satan archetype here said, you know what? Fuck heaven. I'm gonna go shit on it. And then decided, hold up, before I do that though, I need to curb stomp the Archangel Michael for a second.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So okay, I don't know. Here's the thing. I can see the Satan parallels, especially in the context of him being a fallen angel, because he was one of the executors. But the Mad King is also a very interesting character, as much as he is a force of nature.
Right.
Mhm.
No, I'm just being a jokey asshole.
No, you're right. it's like
We should work on slowly transitioning over to the next book
Oh,
because
yeah.
we've been at
Well,
this for an hour 15
the
minutes.
last, the last
that's
thing,
kind
the
of
last,
what-
the last thing I want to
Miscellaneous moments here and there.
The last thing I want to mention is that this is also the book that we do get introduced to the Origin Shroud.
Yes.
And the fact that Osriel just casually took it
Yoinked
from the Mad King's,
he just slapped him into a smear on the wall.
disintegrating physical body. Didn't do enough to actually
was like-
kill the man, but, did enough to basically go, you're not going to be doing anything for the, next few minutes. I'm just going to take this from you as well. You don't deserve it.
This seems neat. Thank you for the toy.
But yeah, speaking of Osriel, next book is kind of titled after him.
Let us move on then to Reaper.
Can I just? Yes, we're and in that vein, the reason we talk so much about Bloodline is because Bloodline is like kind of the emotional climax of the series, or at least it's Lyndon's. It's the climax of Lyndon's character arc, whereas the rest of the series is more of an ensemble cast. Lyndon, as like the we have not even touched on the meeting Lyndon has with Suriel.
And we also
But
haven't touched on a bunch of other things, too. Like, ranging from Fury send-off and the beatdown of Daji to, like, everything at the end of the book. Basically, besides the climax.
It's a dense book.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whereas Reaper, except for the end, is mostly just
Dungeon
the family
crawling,
the family goes dungeon crawling. It's a fun
to be
dungeon
fair,
crawling
this is
adventure
very
with
fun.
family.
It is
It's-
kind of a necessary breather after the emotional intensity of the previous book.
Also, oh my god, something just occurred to me.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure Dross was dead when Lyndon and Yaren banged for the first time.
God damn
don't
it,
say that
Fuzzy.
to
Please
don't say that to me.
Why do you gotta make it like that, man? Why do you gotta do
Look!
that?
There has not been enough degeneracy in our degenerate stream. You know I have to.
This isn't a
Bring it
degenerate
back.
stream.
Oh, you do not!
Look, all
Why?
I'm saying is they just didn't
no,
have
Fuzzy,
time.
Fuzzy.
Stop!
Fuzzy, A, this isn't a degenerate stream, and B, the one chance I gave you to do a degenerate stream, you chose not to do it.
Look, I've been going through a lot this month. Okay, it
wasn't this month. It was. I failed sure last year.
Yeah, this feels like a you thing, Fuzzy. I'm kidding.
Well, now you all have to think about it too. So congratulations.
Yeah, fuck you. But
I'm fucking killing you. God damn it.
Why is this so? Why are you reacting so strongly to this?
Because I'm annoyed and I can't do anything about it.
I guess but this book is very dense. But I do think after this book, Lyndon's character arc is
It's
done.
mostly complete, yeah. He
Like,
has
you
a few steps left, but it's mostly done after
Like,
Bloodline.
Well, the point is that it was building up to that moment in Bloodline of saving Sacred Valley, and at this point it is mostly just okay. We've got some things we need to wrap up before we ascend, and once we've done that and stolen everything that isn't nailed down, we'll be moving
It's
on.
also
that's
you know-
not this book. Remember, Mill. That's later.
you know
No,
what?
I'm fairly sure he was still on that mindset even here.
And the entirety of the labyrinth was there's so much stuff here, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take it all.
Lyndon
Fine
is such a fucking loot goblin.
It's great.
He literally spends the first 5 books of the series with a giant ass backpack.
Mm-hmm.
Rip Lyndon, you would have
Luke
loved
Goblin.
Fortnite.
And then the moment he loses it, he gets a space backpack.
Yeah.
That's even more convenient.
Now, Lyndon is absolutely the type of guy who is just like going, pick up the loot there, pick up the loot there, pick up the loot there.
No,
Lyndon,
he is the person in
wandering
Skyrim-
time is coming. 1 minute, please. Pick up the loot there, pick up the loot there.
He is the one who, yes, he is the one who plays Skyrim and puts on an infinite inventory mod so that he can pick up every single broom, plate, and mug he sees.
What if he needs it?
Exactly.
But I'm like, first of all, not only is his character arc sort of settled, it's really Book 9 marks the transition from person versus self to person versus world.
Right, but also so I guess spoilers. In Reaper, what we get is the team goes down into the labyrinth to deal with Raygun Shen, who is now being a douchebag in the labyrinth, trying to get at the fifth god hidden deep below, to become the ultimate monarch because he's a dick. And by the end of the book, you have all four dread gods awake, essentially starting a new dread war, and you also have this moment of Ethan revealing himself to be the missing Abaddon judge Azrael, and forcing himself to for being revealed so that he could deal with the Mad King and save his home.
It's just so funny because people have been saying that in the community since book 2, completely absent of any evidence, and according to the Discord, Will was actually Wight was terrified. He's like,
There's
God,
also
the whole time, but they called it book 2. What am I gonna do? What if it doesn't go down
also,
the way it should?
Again,
George Martin said a funny thing. I'm gonna begrudge him Winds of Winter forever, but this is a good quote from him. So if you set up the plot so that the butler did it, then someone's gonna figure it out, and you can't just change your plot to say the chambermaid did it, because then it'd make no sense.
No. Oh no! I know that quote. I don't think that's what he was worried about. He was more worried about, is he going to execute the butler did it in a way that is satisfactory to both people who figured it out and people who didn't.
I mean, yeah. Considering I remember the reactions to people who were saying, "Oh, Ethan is Azrael," were, I think you're fucking crazy, dude. What are you on about? That would be so bad, you know. Also, again, I'm just
It
gonna.
was a lot of shit posters, yes.
I'm gonna just correct you slightly. Azrael wasn't saving his home; he was saving his family.
That's true.
No.
Cradle could
Ethan
go
has reached the
burn
point
for
where
all
he
he cares.
not care less if most of Cradle died.
Yeah.
But he's
Yeah,
like,
isn't
my babies are here.
Isn't home where the family is?
Fair.
If that were the case, then he would have just yeeted them off of Cradle immediately.
Yeah, but he could.
I'm pretty sure he would have been allowed to take them with him since I'm like, Lyndon was already qualified to ascend. He could have just left.
I think Yaren was at that point too, because she was a herald.
She was herald, yeah. So both of them were qualified and allowed to ascend. So Ethan could have legally just yoinked them with him on the basis of, well, they were gonna do it. They're able to do it on their own anyway.
I mean, technically, he could have taken, the others with him as well.
Yep.
No, that's what I mean. Is he could have yoinked them and then included the others in the family and friends package.
Yeah.
Because that is an established tradition.
I mean, as we learned with Fury.
That's how the Fury thing.
That's how Fury did it. It's he was like, well, I'm gonna go and take my wife, which apparently look,
Charity come from somewhere.
He has more kids. Oh my God, he has his own Gotens.
Yes, and Charity is the Gohan.
I had to get Chi-Chi and you're out of here.
I'll be right.
But to back to the point, right, where Ethan reveals himself to save his family, gets taken to space jail, and the
To be
gang has to
continued.
kind of deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Lyndon had to finish his arc when he did, because with Ethan gone, there was no one else who could fill that role. Maybe Emrys, but they hadn't met Emrys yet,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and
this
so it
was,
makes it more satisfying. Yeah,
I mean, this is really the Lyndon having to walk on his own. He is, Ethan has very much been, letting Lyndon be the leader. Now Lyndon is the leader. There is no other
Lyndon has to
choice.
be.
Yeah.
It's very much a Lyndon has no more training wheels. There's no more anyone else can be in the room.
There is no safety net, and now, the likes of Northstrider has obviously had his eye on Lyndon for a while, but now it's very much in a more antagonistic sense. Malice has her eyes firmly on Lyndon, and is...
And now he's gotten Raygon Shen's attention.
And now
Right.
Raygon Shen is fully in the camp of, right, a problem we have to deal with instead of a problem we cannot deal with.
Also, just Raygon Shen's freak out at the end of the book is incredibly satisfying.
It is.
I mean-
it more later, but an inheritance which he stole contains a big chunk of a person's personality, and so he knows exactly how vengeful and vindictive Osmanthus Aurelius is.
Yeah, and
And
he's
he's just the better part of how long?
I mean, it's telling that his reaction once, Osriel has left and he's realized that the gang is still there, isn't, okay, I've got to go kill these guys, is, I've got to make sure these people leave as soon as physically possible.
Yeah, because he knows he's fucked otherwise.
Yeah.
He's realized he's been bullying a monster that he had no idea the true capabilities of, and he's been doing it for decades.
Yeah.
We have spent the better part of 2 decades pissing off possibly the worst person in the universe to mess with.
Possibly the most powerful person in the universe.
No, definitely the most powerful single person in the universe, I'm pretty sure. Canonically.
Yeah.
But
he realized he's in absolute deep shit, and he freaks the fuck out, and it's very
Right.
satisfying.
But that's why having the emotional core of the books shift from Lyndon to Yaren and Mercy, and to an extent Zeal, is a good turn of the dial, because Yaren still has a lot of knots in her stomach to kind of untangle. She still has to deal with the Blood
He
Shadow.
got some shit to work through. Yeah.
Right, and to an extent, I think Mercy's story is very possibly, at least to my eye, the most interesting of the narratives left. And so,
it's extremely good stuff.
She has kind of and this is, funnily enough, this is something that is just brought up multiple times. She's been much slower than the gang.
Yeah,
After spending the majority of her life, outpacing everyone else around her as well.
yeah,
Look, all I'm gonna say is, Mercy's arc had a satisfying conclusion, yes, but I did spend most of it hating her because she's a classic Nepo baby.
yes. But there's a
I mean,
Yes,
I would argue that Mercy's arc is more of the gifted child.
yes, burnt out gifted child.
Both. It's both.
And the big fish from a small pond suddenly entering a bigger pond and realizing, oh, not so big now, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Less of that, I think, because it's not that the pond suddenly becomes bigger immediately. It's more that suddenly these mutant freak fish come into the big pond, and she's just like, "What are you?"
She still is a normal fish in a tiny pond for most of her life.
we obviously spent so long talking about Bloodline, but Cradle as a whole, and starting with Reaper, is almost the same sort of storyline of trying to convince these fucking almost backwards idiots that what they're doing is wrong, and that they need to learn to adapt to this.
Okay, it's the story of Cradle, right? Is Bloodline is the story of trying to convince your family that climate change is happening. And the story of Cradle as a whole is trying to, and especially the last trilogy of the series, is trying to convince the billionaires to stop polluting and making climate change happening.
Kinda, yeah.
And they, of course, come to the only satisfactory conclusion, which is either force them to capitulate or murder them horribly.
I mean, yeah, that is also the big reveal of this book beyond, Aethan being Osriel, which is that monarchs are causing the Dread Gods.
Yep.
Yeah, by not fucking off the planet ASAP after they ascend to Monarch.
Literally, the world is not big enough to accommodate them.
Yeah.
Something, it's the billionaires and Fortune 500 companies polluting the planet, not the little guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotta love applicability.
But the best part about, I don't know, Reaper, something you said, something one of you guys had said was, Bloodline is the story of, Sacred Valley being backwards and shitty. Cradle, as a whole, is backwards and shitty. What was it that Serial said at the beginning of the series?
It's where we keep the infants.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, it's funny, because Cradle is...
I mean, isn't
cultivation
cultivation fiction as a whole basically there's always a bigger fish?
Yes. Literally, that is the entire genre. But the other thing I was gonna say is that Cradle is interesting because while it is backwards as a whole, it's backwards but ruled by people who know better and are choosing not to be better.
Yep. In some cases, it's because they think they need to do it, but in most cases, it's just pure selfishness.
Yes, so it's America.
I can't really gainsay you on that.
But the fact that it's, we kind of joke about how Cradle is kind of a shit show as a whole, as a world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we look at the
absolutely a hell world, yes.
And then we look at the Abaddon court, and
it's not much better.
It's not much better, and part of the reason for that is because the people who founded the Abaddon are from Cradle.
Let's not be too mean to Cradle. I mean, we gotta look at fucking Fathom in The Last Horizon, and they're not that much better. Let's be honest.
No.
One moment, please. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Hang on just a second.
But I will say, Cradle,
and we've at least all read what is it? Traveler's Gate.
Yeah.
Those worlds aren't much better either. Let's be honest.
No, they're not.
I read Traveler's Gate, so I don't know.
The world is that much better.
No, but I want to more of my point is that the Abaddon court and thusly almost all of the other worlds within the Abaddon network are all unfortunate recipients of the structures that were started on Cradle, brought off Cradle by the original court, and then perpetuated by the next the future generations of the court.
I mean, yes. I mean, that's the thing. The court is made up of the people coming from these worlds, so they're coming with their own baggage to begin with. And then, even when you get the occasional person who's like, "Wow, shit is fucked," they're not allowed to do anything about it because of the Eldari Pact.
Because it's so entrenched that they haven't been able to change it, and that a lot of people don't want to change it.
Something American hegemony.
And so
I mean,
the other,
wow,
the
it
other
really
thing I was
is
gonna-
America, because instead of solving their problems, they just kept expanding.
Yeah.
I mean, that's imperialism in a nutshell, which I know British people would be familiar with as well.
So it's also capitalism. Capitalism is banked on infinite growth, come what may.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
It's like-
not sustainable.
Ethan single-handedly was the Industrial Revolution, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Kinda.
He led to a trend of unsustainable growth, and the moment something went wrong, i.e. fossil fuels ran out or the climate disaster happened, things immediately went to hell, because of course it did.
Right. Exactly. And like you have to remember that Ethan also comes from the same starting structures as the other Abaddon. Like, regardless of whether the current members of the Abaddon court that Ethan interacted with on a day-to-day basis are in fact from Cradle, which they're not.
Yeah, that's another funny thing, is that there's two things. First of all, it's very funny to me that and this is a classic leopards ate my face moment. The structure of the Abaddon court is such that people from Cradle inherently have a harder time making their way up the ranks, which is very funny to me, because it was started by people from Cradle.
Mm-hmm.
But also, someone brought this up, or not someone brought this up, this is mentioned in the books by Surreal's Presence. I forget which book it is, but Surreal's Presence, I love, by the way, low-key, Surreal's Presence is one of the best characters in the series.
Yeah, no, they have.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me if Will had said, "Oh no, they orchestrated the whole thing."
No. Surreal's Presence is just Dross, but better at hiding it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got a counterpoint for you. Raziel's presence, which translate her sundereness.
That's funny.
That's very funny, but it's almost too on the nose.
Nah, it's fine.
Whereas Surreal's is much more of a low key. Surreal's Presence is the deadpan shit disturber.
Mm-hmm.
But no, Surreal's Presence mentions this, is that, as it turns out, an organization made up of people who left their planets in search of ever-increasing individual power together. Or, being helpful. Right? Because that's what the Abaddon is mostly made up of. They're made up of people who reached the peak of power on their world and were like, no, I want more.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which is funny, because that's also kind of what Lyndon's Archlord revelation is. He wants more, and he's going to keep pursuing that.
Well,
But at the same time, it comes from a very different place than than what you're mentioning. It's very much from a place of...
No, I'm saying not always does it come from a different place, but that's just how it ends up being, is that when your entire life has been devoted to the pursuit of personal power, by the time you reach the peak as a judge, you're kind of like there's baggage that you've baked in.
I mean,
And it's
baggage is basically Ethan's middle name.
Yeah.
Like, getting into Ethan and all his shit, goddamn.
Yeah, and I will to that point, right? Ethan's leaving is the necessary catalyst, because Ethan needs to go back to see where he came from too.
Mm-hmm. And he also needs to own up to his own failings in this case.
Right, because he's also part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is he a part... one of the other things is that... one of the problems is that even though many of the judges came from a place of relative weakness, they have forgotten what it was like. It's because that's just human nature, right? Is like,
Well,
Right,
it's
actors
possibly because they took so long to get to that place that they've had a chance to forget. Whereas, you know, our gang has sped run through it, and therefore they still
Yes.
remember. Certainly, Lyndon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
He's like-
think about it this way. Even the monarchs are like that.
Mm.
yeah, the vast majority of people spend years at each stage. Even the fastest advancing, and the only person who can even compare is the person who cheats, Miara, and she, it's very,
With
very
her power.
obvious. No, it's very, very obvious that she suffered for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and she also grew up in a place where that was always the expectation. She grew up not knowing what a dollar meant.
Mm.
And that's why it's just it's one of those things where the systemic abuses are the systemic issues are perpetuated by people who suffered from the issues because they spent so long getting out from it that they have forgotten what it was like to suffer from them.
It's very much the I got mine, fuck you.
Mm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I also want to talk about Zeal in this book, because this, I would say, is the start of, or the restarting of his arc.
Yes.
Because certainly, you know, he joins the gang in Bloodline, yes, but he's very much more along for the ride there.
Right. This is the
Reaper-
first one where he's like, oh, shit, I'm yours now, huh? Fuck.
Reaper is the book where he realizes that not only is he a part of this team, but he wants to be a part of this team, and that he wants to actually, you know, get better.
You are being adopted into this found family. Do not resist.
Yeah.
It is very much Reaper is the process of him coming to the realization of, oh, I've been adopted.
I mean, and to
Yeah,
be
but-
fair, it takes that moment where, you know, I think it does take that moment where he thinks everything is ending for him to realize, actually, no, this isn't how I want to end up. I want to do more.
Oh, it's the whole moment of clarity when you're already standing on the ledge,
Right.
sort of feeling. But the other thing, can I just say, this is something very cute. I forget if it happened in Bloodline or Reaper, but when Lyndon is going on at length about the defensive measures.
Oh, that was Bloodline, yeah. When he wants to talk about the scripts, and then Ethan's like, "Ooh, look, a distraction," and takes Yeren with him, and Zeal's just left there, just like, "I'd like to hear about the scripts."
I love it. I love Zeal so much.
Also, the
Because
whole
Zeal's such a
we kinda
big
glazed up-
fucking nerd.
we did kind of glaze over it because it wasn't really a big thing in the last book, but the founding of the Twin Stars sect is very funny.
Oh, it's hilarious. I mean, part of it is that the biggest hilarious moment is Lyndon finding out about it several weeks after it's already been established.
He is precisely the last person to find out about it.
He's
Yeah.
also
They've graduated students already, 100%.
Yes.
yes, they've already have elders and graduates, and also it will never not be funny to me, the fact that Ethan just wears a full body cast
Yeah.
for a week after Bloodline, despite the fact that he probably healed within a couple of days.
To be fair,
he
I think that's the most
absolutely-
exhausted. That's the most exhausted he's been in years.
I think
He was probably
I think
looking for
it's
an
also an
excuse.
emotional thing because of the loss of his hair.
Mhm.
No, he is
He
very.
wanted his outside to be as bandaged as he as he wanted to do to his insides.
Mm-hmm.
He needed
It's
that
very much
representation.
He was observing the 3-week mourning period.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
On the subject of the Twin Star sect, Zeal becoming master of the training hall.
Oh, so funny.
Against his will.
Yeah, just. Well, it's the funniest thing because he's like, I'm doing this against my will, but at the same time, he never says no.
I mean, yeah, no.
He
He's
also
doing
kinda
it
gets into it.
He's doing it against. He's like, I don't want to do this, but if I am gonna do this, and I apparently am, I'm doing it right.
Also, the funniest thing about the Ethan's hair gag is that I'm pretty sure it was within his power to just regrow it instantly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Also,
that's what happened with Mercy. You know, she got a hair growth tonic
Burned
after
off.
Sofara burned it off. So yes, it was Ethan being dramatic, of course, because he's Ethan.
Yeah. Also, another fun thing involving Ethan, them meeting the Emperor of the Black Flame Empire was very funny.
And you know,
Including-
showing extreme respect to Lyndon and Yaren, and just blanking Ethan because like, you should have told me this stuff before it happened.
And this is the part where he kicks Ethan over the horizon and records it in dream tablets.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, to be fair, wouldn't you?
Yes.
He had permission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ethan's literally offered him to do anything to make up for annoying Juan so much.
But,
Absolutely
like-
great.
Actually, no. Ethan
Yeah.
doesn't allow that. It's Yaren's suggestion, and Juan just runs with it.
No,
Ah.
he had Yaren's permission, and
Yeah.
that was enough.
He got a herald. He got the herald and uncrowned queen.
Yeah.
No. Ethan offers anything, and Yaren's the one who suggests the kick.
And who is Emperor Juan to reject the idea of the uncrowned queen and over herald?
Yes, exactly.
And yes, and this is also the book where, as we mentioned before, Lynn is like, I'm so shocked that Kelsa can't advance as quickly as I did with all the resources that I've given her. And
Yeah,
Yaren,
no, that's
Yaren just blankly staring at Ethan, laughing himself sick.
To be fair, I also agree. Kelsa's a bitch.
You know what? It's frustrating. I spent time in the community, and this was one of the most rehashed arguments, is that, well, if you think about it, Lyndon's just as privileged as Mercy is, and I'm just like...
No, Lyndon's just a god of hard work.
Who has
He-
two Wynants in the form of literal gods.
Yes.
Yeah, he has
has
a Wynant.
two sugar mommies.
I mean,
He has
yes,
sugar mommies.
yes, he, had the bonus of Ghost Water, but you forget that he had to beat 2 True Golds in there. 2 of the strongest True Golds in the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
As a jade. Like, he went in there a jade.
No, he was a low gold. He was a
He
low
was a
gold.
low
He was low gold, yeah.
Oh, was he a low gold?
Yeah,
Okay.
he was low gold.
when he entered,
Low gold, but he
I
had it-
believe
He was
he
being
came
self-
out a high gold. I think.
Yes.
So he came out of true.
No, he
No,
came out
True
at
Gold.
True Gold in one core, High Gold in another.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it goes, yeah.
No, I think the thing that you need to remember about Lyndon is that he got resources, but for the most part, the resources he received were information. It's the same.
Well, I mean,
Thank you.
I think the scene that sums up Lyndon is when he was advanced to Iron. Because, yes, Ethan gave him, the opportunity to do it and to get this Iron body. Lyndon is the one who pushed himself.
Yes, that's
Further
the other
beyond.
thing is that, like,
Well, it's
Yeah.
all true.
yes, I think that's another thing is that, like, you can, if you give someone $1 million and the rough idea of how to build, like, a particle accelerator, 99% of people are gonna fail.
Yeah, they're going to spend that $1 million on something else.
No. I mean, even if you just put them in charge of using $1 million to build a particle accelerator with just vague information of how to do it, they're gonna fail. The majority of them are going to fail, and it's the same principle, and it's something that until it was explicitly stated in the text, the community, especially on the Discord, refused to wrap their heads around. I got into
well, I mean, you have to remember that like people in our cohort, right, are coming off the Naruto problem.
What, with Naruto
right,
just being given everything?
Well, Naruto, Naruto, and to an extent, Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach, like, jumping into their stories as, like, these nobodies with nothing, growing into something, and then, post hoc being told, actually, you're everything balled into one, also you're God.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, to an extent, like, people were really burned off the Naruto people were really burned off Naruto.
Especially when they killed off Neji in a sacrifice to save Hinata, which is literally his entire character arc, was that he didn't want to do that.
Right. And like we can argue all day about that. But,
and we will in like a week or two because we've got the roast of Naruto coming up.
But
we haven't done that.
No,
but the point of
I think we just passively roasted enough. Okay, sorry again. Go.
But the point that I'm making is that like the reason why people like on the Discord, not to like because some of them are dicks, but like part of the reason why that response is there is because of Naruto, because we are in a post-Naruto, post-Bleach world.
I mean, hell, people were arguing this shit about Luffy in Gear 5 when it's like, it's not the case with that.
Yeah,
because,
no, many people have had it over the course of 800 years. He's the first person to awaken it. That means something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awakening is not, like, something that's easy or quick to do. It takes a lot of effort. And he put in a lot of effort to, just get the basics of his ability down. And that's similar to the case with Linden.
But no, it's like, do you know what an even earlier example of this was?
Dragon Ball?
Dragon Ball to Z.
Yeah. I know, that's honestly what I was thinking about.
Yeah, it's like Dragon Ball was like, he's just a weird kid with a monkey tail who is totally not an XP of Sun Wukong, who's named Sun Wukong. But at the same time, but then Dragon Ball Z rolls around and Toriyama's just like, hey guys, aliens. He's this
alien race who gets stronger every time he's nearly killed and, has this super special form he can access.
And is just genetically superior to humans. That's low key. The whole thing is that the Saiyans are just genetically superior.
Mm-hmm. Which is, all kinds of bullshit.
But anyway, do we want to talk about the Abaddon stuff from this book as well? Because it's obviously, fairly massive.
I mean, I do want to talk about. Yeah, go ahead and talk about that. I do want to talk about the build up to the reveal of Osriel as well. But we'll do that after you talk about
that's an emotional catharsis moment for an emotional climax moment for like
the Abaddon stuff first though.
But yeah, so it's really just this is I think the book where the individualistic nature comment was made by Suriel's presence. But not only did she realize that the only way for the Abaddon to actually, like... get off their asses and do something was if she literally threw herself into the jaws of death. Because everyone would be like, oh no, you do not mess with the White Mage, right?
Yeah. Nobody.
Suriel's the White Mage, so when the White Mage jumps into the monster's gullet, everyone's like, oh no, we need to put down our baggage temporarily and go sort that out. Which I will say the Avengers Assemble moment in Reaper is probably something that will stay rent-free in my head for the rest of my life.
It's fucking good.
There's those two moments. There is the arrivals, and then there is the what each one is actually doing in the battle, and the sheer scale of it. And this is especially coming off the back of we've had Linden and the gang facing off against the Wandering Titan. We've had Malice and Northstrider going up against the Bleeding Phoenix again. In the book in Wintersteel, we had 2 Monarch level battles at the end, and then suddenly we realized just how small even these are compared to basically the pinnacle.
It's how you can tell that despite fixing a lot of the problems of Janja, Will Wight loves the hell out of it.
Hey, just because the genre has problems doesn't mean that there's not stuff to love.
Also, I will say, and I believe, and I think I know why Gen's a bit silent on this. I believe Gen is part of this camp, and this is a pretty significant camp in the community as well, that doesn't like the Abaddon scale stuff, the Abaddon scale fights as much.
I don't think that's the reason he's silent. I think the reason he's silent is because he's away from his computer for a little bit.
Okay, well, there's a fair enough. There's a significant chunk of the fandom, at least of the proportion that speaks. I'm not gonna get into the silent majority because the silent majority has its own set of problems.
Hello.
No, you don't. My brother in Christ, you are on a podcast. You are not part of the silent majority.
But I don't discuss in the fandom.
No, that's not what I mean. But look, to me, I use the silent majority as a almost derogatory term to refer to the people who do not engage with the media outside of consuming it at all. In the sense of not even thinking about it after they've consumed it.
No thoughts, head empty.
Yes. You know who I'm talking about.
Not
the people who took Starship Troopers on face value.
Yes.
Things like that. That's the silent majority, sadly. But no, I was gonna say is again, would you like to give your thoughts on this? Is that there's a pretty vocal part of the fan base that does not like the Abaddon scale fights and stuff as much.
So, I'm of two minds about it. I like the concept of it. However, I don't have a good grasp of the fight system, of the idea of concept fight, of this of the need to destroy the origin point of a person to actually beat them. All of that feels very vague and underdeveloped in a series that so far has been very concrete with leveling and point and term. And that is Will is going from a system of hard rules to a soft rule within
well, it's more that they're hard rules that are just not explained yet.
Right.
Because the problem is twofold. The problem is that it's a Cradle. The books are the Cradle series first and foremost, and they're not really getting into the Abaddon power system yet.
Right, and that's totally okay.
And the other part of it is that the more abstract conceptual level fighting is something that is hard to grasp for a lot of people, simply because it's not something that comes naturally to human beings.
Especially if you are incredibly bad with certain types of visualization. I am very bad at the spitting cube visualization stuff, and so I can't really do image visualization in my head that well.
And I am the exact opposite. I almost exclusively think in images.
And so you have the two of us kind of going at it from two different perspectives. But that's kind of...
Low-key, I think I do have a passive autism buff with regards to this, because
And like,
not a generalized one. It's that abstract conceptual high level combat is one of my special interests. So as a result, it's just so much easier for me to grab.
Kind of fun, not gonna lie. When they're pulled off well, sometimes they can be real bullshit. Bleach. Anyways, sorry about that coughing.
So here's the thing. Most shonen stuff, like the mainstream stuff, is much more visceral than the pure abstract stuff.
Oh, I am aware.
Right? Like the real
just being
pure
a petty bitch.
Yeah, no, because like Bleach and JJK are both examples of abstract fights in which one is done good and one is done badly.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it still boils down to punching people with your abstract concepts.
Yeah.
And swinging otters at people in general. Because as we all know, otters are abstract concepts. Yes. We really did rehearse that a bit better.
No, we don't. It's fine. We're good.
But no, it's if you want to get really into the weird abstract concept stuff, you get into stuff like Medaka Box and Medaka Box.
You mean?
Medaka Box and Toho and as much as I hate that series, Certain Magical Index. And
Fate also to an extent, honestly.
Fate is to a large extent, yes, but like Fate is closer to the punching people with your abstract concepts.
Yes.
oh my god, fucking Medaka Box. Don't.
Did I just awaken some latent trauma?
Not trauma, just oh my god.
That series was a lot, and the fact that I only recently learned that it was by the author of the Monogatari series, and it makes so much sense in hindsight.
It does, doesn't it?
But yes, I think the high level abstract concept fights are really fun because for me personally, first of all, it's easy for me to visualize.
Oh.
And I think that can hamper a lot of people because like some people
just visualize it as them throwing a bunch of otters at each other.
Only in my downtime. But no, the thing is, for a lot of people live on planet Earth instead of in their own heads.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be more difficult for those people. Whereas for me, I literally pathologically live in my own head. To the point that it was a problem I did spend some time in the psych ward because I lived too much in my own head. But we're not gonna talk about Fuzzy's schizo arc right now.
We are going to talk about a little bit of Mercy's character arc, because she has her Overlady revelation in this one.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's a very interesting mirror of
Yaren's.
Yeah. Because
both of theirs are their Overlord revelations
foils of each other, honestly.
Right.
I really like it.
And like their revelations are not about who they are, but who they're not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think no, that's the thing. Yaren's revelation is entirely about who she's not because she has spent her entire life trying to be that person. Whereas Mercy's revelation is about who she's not and instead who she is because she has been trying her entire life to not become that person. So while their revelations seem similar on the surface, they are coming at it from almost entirely opposite directions.
That's why I said they're foils to each other.
Yes.
They got they got the same answer with different equations.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's because like it is for Yaren it's something of a regret, and for Mercy it's a relief.
Right. Yeah. But also like I would argue that Yaren's Overlord revelation comes at a moment where she needs to hear it. She needs to be told that she isn't the sage of the Endless Sword.
Mhm.
Yeah, meeting Minshui was not the best for her mental health at that point in her life.
I mean, neither is it Min Shui, like the best for
It's
Min
not the
Shui's
best for
mental health.
Minshui's mental health either, because, like, she genuinely, it's very obvious that she genuinely thinks of Yeren as a daughter and is heartbroken when Yeren doesn't reciprocate as much because she's emotionally stunted because her dad was a himbo.
Anyways, I know I brought this this topic up. I do want to also talk about the build up to the reveal and the execution of the reveal, because good God,
It's good.
it's very good. Like, you have the whole bit of the Mad King descending down. It feels like the apocalypse. Prophetic sages are losing their goddamn mind.
It also very clearly says it seems to point at, oh, this is like the Mad King's arrival is what everyone's afraid of.
Yeah.
And then
And
we
you
get
have
the
stuff
bait and
like-
switch.
Yeah, you get stuff like Northstrider's Codex going nuts, just repeating "a destroyer has come" over and over again. And then Ethan pulls out the marble and releases his limiter.
Says authorization requested.
The destroyer has come. The
And
destroyer.
And it's just, not only is that great, it's like, it's very, like I said, I just want an entire short story that is just, do you know who I missed out on?
Who?
Naru Gui.
Yes, I was about to say.
I just wanted to see the look, because he always thought, because he was stupid, and he always thought that he could take Ethan in a fight when they were both Underlords. Even though Ethan would have creamed him. Literally would have turned him into a stain on the wall, and then cleaned it up spotlessly with his broom. With the same broom, mind you.
I love the whole joke about the broom icon coming back as well.
Not only is it a joke, the fact that they... Okay, there's something I was gonna bring up, is that the way the presence hyped up Osriel in Unsold, I thought, okay, there's no way the actual Osriel is gonna live up to the hype. And in particular, I was gonna be like, he debated the scholars and then 3 of them committed suicide because of it. And I was just like, okay, I know that can theoretically happen, but I don't think there's any author who writes progression fantasy, and this is not a knock on Will, it's just the level of discourse necessary to drive someone to suicide is not something the 99.9999% of the population is capable of. So I'm like, how if they ever explain that, it's not going to be satisfying. And then I'm like, oh, that's how they do it.
You made a mockery of it.
Yes, and it was so satisfying, and also him constantly dismissing icons because they're the same ones he built up, that they're the same ones he acquired in his previous life in the exact same order.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He just doesn't want that again.
Right. Ethan's such a cool character because he is someone who is so weighted down by his past and cannot.
Go ahead.
I was gonna he's we talk a lot about in Bloodlines about characters who are stuck in their ways, who are blind to their own biases, the ways in which the ways that they have been raised, etc., etc. It's kind of prevented them from seeing forward. And we always kind of thought that Ethan was more progressive than that, and he is. But that doesn't mean he's not prone to the same thing.
Doesn't mean he's infallible. Yeah.
It also is that he's more progressive, but that's after a lifetime spent not being as progressive.
Again, sorry to do this, but it's, imagine if Strom Thurmond became an abolitionist, or in that, that's the vibe with Ethan.
Granted, he was never that bad a person.
No,
You're thinking more along the lines of Delinar, I think, again.
no, kind of, but not really. Like, Ethan's whole thing is that he is
He's the strongest in the universe, literally.
right. He is absolutely the strongest person in the world.
Is
But
he
also-
Osriel because he's the strongest, or is he the strongest because he's Osriel?
No, that is unambiguously answered as he's Osriel because he's the strongest. That is an unambiguously answered question.
I know, I was saying it for the meme, damn it.
Okay.
But Ethan is, oh god, I'm gonna hate myself for this, but it's like, what if Superman? It's like Superman versus Supergirl. Superman is essentially a baby when he lands on Earth, and is raised as a person, right, by the Kents. Like,
As a human,
he's allowed to be his own person. Whereas Kara Zor-El is Supergirl. She arises as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
She has lived as a Kryptonian. She knows what she is like.
Well, okay, yes, but also
But-
she didn't have
but my-
superpowers before she was on Earth. But yes, no, the point stands.
But my point is like, at the end of it all, there are moments where people say like, "Oh yeah, Supergirl is stronger than Al," and yes, but part of the reason for that is because Kara has had to force that. She is struggling against her own wills the entire time, in a way that Clark honestly doesn't have the same bias. Or
Clark
He has
doesn't have the
more
same
near the same
biases.
issues.
He
in
had
general.
he had like a very good. That's the thing, is that he had a very good upbringing. He had a happy, stable life, and he is capable of a great deal of empathy because that was instilled in him from a young age. Whereas let's remember, Kara Zor-El didn't just grow up a Kryptonian. She grew up a member of the Kryptonian ruling class, and Kryptonian society was incredibly stratified because it was a caricature of kind of American capitalistic society.
But and
The 50s
also like
especially.
and like there are some instances in which, you know,
Not
Kara
necessarily
is from
from continuity, to be sure.
yeah,
but,
but like there are some continuities in which Kara is from Argo, which is one of the cities that gets bottled by Brainiac.
because Brainiac is a prick, yes.
And so, like, you know, Kandor is a very, like, Kara has so much trauma and regrets and all of this tied up in her that she is struggling to fight against it the entire time. Whereas
Mhm.
Clark is starting from a point entirely alien. And that is the Lyndon-Ethan dichotomy. Both are the strongest in their cohort. Absolutely. However, they are both, when compared with one another, Cal is the better character. Cal is the stronger, or the better hero, because he doesn't have the baggage. But Kara is the more interesting hero, or the more like humanized hero, because she has that baggage. And I think, and that's kind of what happens with Lyndon and Nathan, is like, but almost to the reverse, where like Lyndon is this kid who doesn't have anything, has a shit life, and is then like forced to become a better forced to like bring a moral view to a world that has done things for so long that they didn't realize the tradition has become evil. And then you have Ethan, who grew up in that tradition, helped establish it to an extent, and then fucked off.
So, okay, if we're talking about other media, there's a story I've been reading recently. It is a Chinese authored genre, so obviously it's got its own set of baggage, but it's a fascinating character study in a way that a lot of genre aren't, because it features a main character who his entire thing is, I don't want trouble, I just want to like hide in my cave and cultivate until I become the strongest in the universe. And despite that, he finds himself getting into trouble simply because of the fact that he can't let go of his like basic human decency and empathy and morality, which is funnily enough something that's considered just completely dispensable in the majority of genre series.
Yep.
But it's just because he maintains a certain level of basic human decency in a world where that is just not done, in a genre where that is not done, that makes the series very interesting to me. He also does end up adopting 2 boys, a girl, and a rabbit. So
The rabbit is great.
the rabbit constantly lies.
Yes, of course it does.
So that's a rabbit. Bugs Bunny, if you will.
Da 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 da.
Yeah.
But also, but yeah, no, it's just, that's a very cogent point as you bring up again, and it's, I think, the most interesting part about all of this is that Ethan failed.
Mm-hmm.
In his second life on Cradle, which was supposed to be his like sort of.
He did everything right. Like, he came back with the answers to the test.
And yet he still failed because the
test was rigged to begin with.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, if you think about it hard enough, like, and you read between the lines, you could probably see that like he did the rigging himself a little bit.
He is the victim of being hoisted by his own petard, as it were.
Yeah. Because, especially because even in his first life, he was a freak. Right?
He was freak, yes.
It's something that I really want to see expanded on, which I don't know if Will is ever going to do. But even on Cradle, by the standards of Cradle, he was an outlier. By the standards of the Abaddon, he's an outlier. He has spent his entire life in a position of such elevated power.
He's always been the biggest fish in every pond.
Yes. And what he's finding is that despite knowing all the answers, despite having the theory on it's the same thing that ended up happening with Lyndon, or it's the same argument that we made with Lyndon, is that given the exact same resources, not everyone can make it.
Right.
Yep.
Because, like, Ethan came back with the cheat sheet, and yet he still wasn't able to take his life down the path that he wanted it. He wasn't able to achieve his ideal life.
Right, because he got the chance that no one in the Abaddon,
literally no one in history has ever gotten that chance before, to the best of our knowledge.
Right. And it's all, like, he's such a tragedy of a character.
Mm-hmm.
Because he just couldn't do it. Despite all the best intentions, he still ended up as the destroyer janitor.
And it's like, I think in hindsight, Ethan constantly rejecting those icons is one of the most tragic parts of the series. Because he knows that in the grand scheme of things, it shouldn't matter. His rejection of those icons is illogical from the perspective of Ethan Aurelius. It is not, but from the perspective of Osmanthus Aurelius, it is a reminder that he is walking down the same path to misery that he walked, and he was trying to get away from, despite the fact that he literally spent everything imaginable to not do that.
Here's the question. If this hadn't have happened and Ethan hadn't have been forced to expose himself, do you think he ever would have gone back to being Osriel?
I do believe he would have once he realized just how wrong things had gone. Because, remember, Ethan left a very stable and solid set of backup plans.
Yeah, like, there's a... What was it that Surreal said? That, like, even when blindfolded, he could still see so far. And he made his backup plans with his presence.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like,
what if the Mad King hadn't have gotten the fake scythe and the Abaddon stuff hadn't have gone wrong?
Well, he would have walked back into what's the first world, Sanctum.
Yeah.
He would have walked into the Court of Sanctum.
Well, Threshold. They would have arrived on Threshold first.
Well, no, I mean, like, he would have...
Okay, yeah, the base, okay, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like, the courthouse.
Yeah.
Like, he would have walked into the courthouse with his Reapers in tow and be like, I did it. Fucking look, I did it.
I have done it, I am the successor.
Also,
there's
this is something that is baked in probably from the Cradle days. You know how everyone's like, hey, all past things of the Executors failed. We really shouldn't try that. And like, again, there were a lot of people in the community who were like, yeah, if Osriel thinking he can do better is just dumb.
I mean, it's the tragedy of Osriel.
But no, the thing I was trying to bring up is, in those reports about the first and second generation of the Executors, it was very clear, and it was even more abundantly clear, the Abaddon doesn't exactly have a mental health plan. Because Cradle doesn't have a mental health plan. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways, is that if the Abaddon had just, like...
Given therapy.
Yes, if they had a therapist, things would not have gone down like that.
It's kind of amazing, if you think about it, it's kind of amazing how many stories could be solved by the presence of a competent, empathetic therapist.
Because, both the first and second... yes.
Unfortunately, it's out of commission mostly for...
yes, we didn't even mention Rossellini, which is the Will Wight approved named, which I named, and I got official Will Wight approval in the form of a smiley face. So I'm quite happy with that.
But yeah, we should start wrapping up because we've been going on for over almost 2.5 hours.
I just have one closing statement to make about the mental health angle. The Executors in from the Mad King's generation, they all went mad with power, but not because. But the with power thing isn't the problem. The madness thing happened because they were 5 people, or 5 or 7, like a few people, being forced to right the wrongs of the entire multiverse with no support system.
Yeah, it was a colossal amount of burnouts.
And the same thing happened, and the second generation were literally raised from birth, and we all know how that turns out.
Mm-hmm.
As it turns out,
I mean,
the whole Type Bomb thing has never gone well. Ever.
Nope.
And the same thing happened with Osriel. When you make a guy's job to mercy kill billions of innocent people on a regular basis,
it's gonna take a fucking toll.
How did they not see it coming?
They were too entrenched in the system they had.
And the fact that like here's the thing, it wouldn't have been a problem if Ethan had been a sociopath, but like that would have had its own set of problems. But like, how do you not expect someone to just burn out after a human being with empathy? How do you not expect them to just burn the hell out after they have to mostly kill? It's the people working in hospice care problem, right?
Right, but I think that's why if Ethan had everything go according to plan, he would have failed.
Yes.
It's very likely, yeah.
Because he was raising...
He was raising him.
Yes.
And the solution
to
wasn't
not
him. Yeah, the solution was not him. The solution was something different.
And I think that's the beauty of, like, Ethan is a tragedy because he succeeds when he failed. And he was going to fail if he succeeded.
To be fair,
sometimes he does succeed in ways that are wholly good.
Yes, he is. To be fair, it's less of a tragedy. The intent is a tragedy. It is a tragedy, but it has a happy ending because at the end of the day, he is happy with the way that he failed.
Yes.
And the success that it led to.
Right.
So
I'm not, like, when I say tragedy, I mean, like, the tragedy of Ethan and Osmanthus, had things gone according to plan, would have been his sin of pride, like his hubris being the reason he ultimately fails at everything.
But yes, thank you all for joining us.
Pressing notes. There are some moments we should discuss as we wrap up, like other highlight moments of the book, because we've talked a lot about Ethan and his whole thing.
It's his book. It's literally named after him.
To be fair, he does also have some really good moments, like literally just stealing the copy of his scythe back from.
That was so good.
A poor choice of weapon.
I mean, there's also the thing of the Mad King being like, how could you know? And Ethan being like, I always know. I don't know shit, but you know, it's better to be mysterious on these things.
He does. Yes. It is funny because that sums up his entire character on Cradle in a nutshell. Is that like most of the time he's just making educated guesses, but it's much more.
It is working well for him for the most part.
Something. Common sense is the superpower in most of these stories.
I mean, we didn't really talk about Reagan Shen either.
His fight with Lyndon is fucking incredible.
It's great, but to be fair, Rhaegon Shen is such a sidebar.
Rhaegon Shen is... We'll talk about him more when we talk about the final two books, because it's all very funny to discuss him in that context.
He has one of the most cathartic and satisfying conclusions to a villain. It's his entire arc in books 11 and 12 is some of the most cathartic and, like, delicious suffering I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you all for joining us as we spend 2.5 hours gushing over what may be one of the greatest writers of our time.
Mm-hmm.
I say that in a joking tone, but that's not hyperbole. He has succeeded in turning Battle Shonen genre into one of the most insightful commentaries on human nature, society, and relationships in
It is extremely compelling.
Yes.
But also, like, we are probably going to wind up spending like 3 or 4 hours talking about the last 2 books, because there's a lot.
To do one each, I think.
We will have to do one each.
We will have to do one for Dread God, one for Waybound.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed in terms of future stuff. We, of course, stream on Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursdays. I'm not making any predictions as to what we're going to do, because every time I do that, it ends up being wrong.
Not every time, just most times.
Yeah, those are the days of streaming. So again, thank you for watching. Please do give us a follow here on Twitch and all that YouTube stuff.
Like and subscribe, press that bell icon, and leave a comment down below.
And hopefully...
And also, next time we stream, we might have a little surprise in store, so be ready for that.
That would be a
perhaps.
surprise for me as well, which is impressive. But otherwise, again, for the last time, thank you for watching. And hopefully we'll see you on Saturday. Good night.
Later.
Bye-bye.